He was standing on a roof. That's how it started. Not in a palace, not on a battlefield. A roof. And in that one moment, a man who survived lions, bears, and giants made the worst decision of his life. And he didn't even see it coming. Because that's how these things always work. You don't decide to destroy your life. You just stop paying attention. And by the time you realize what happened, the damage is already done. Today we're going inside Psalm 51, not the version read at church on Sunday mornings, the raw one, written by a man who couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't run from what he'd become. This isn't just a prayer, it's a confession. And it might be the most honest document ever written. Let's go. To understand Psalm 51, you have to understand who David was before it. Because this wasn't some ordinary man who made an ordinary mistake. This was the man God chose. The shepherd boy who killed a giant with a stone. The warrior who united a broken nation, the king described by God himself as a man after his own heart. That's who we're talking about. And by the time we reach this moment, he had everything. The throne, the armies, the legacy. And he threw it all away in a single evening. Here's what the text says. It was spring, the season when kings go to war, but David stayed home. That detail matters, because the moment David stepped back from what he was built for, the battlefield came to him. He's on his roof. He sees a woman bathing. Her name is Bathsheba. She is beautiful. She is also married to one of David's own soldiers, a loyal man named Uriah, who is currently on the battlefield that David refused to go to. And David sends for her anyway. This is the moment. Not some dramatic, cinematic collapse. Just a king doing something he knew he shouldn't and banking on no one finding out. But something does find out. Bathsheba sends a message. 2 words. I'm pregnant. And now David has a problem. Not a moral problem, a logistics problem, which tells you everything about where his head was. Because when your first instinct isn't regret, it's strategy, you're already lost. David's plan is clean. Bring Uriah home from battle. Give him a few days off. Let him go back to his wife. Nobody questions the pregnancy. Except Uriah doesn't go home. He sleeps at the palace entrance with the other servants because he refuses to enjoy the comforts of home while his fellow soldiers are still in the field. The most loyal man in the kingdom is blocking David's exit. So David tries again, gets him drunk. Same result. Uriah sleeps at the gate. David is out of options, except one. He writes a letter, orders Uriah placed at the front of the heaviest fighting, then fall back, leave him exposed. Uriah carries his own death warrant back to the battlefield. And the plan works. Uriah dies. David marries Bathsheba. And for a season, nobody says a word. The palace stays quiet.
The kingdom moves on, and David acts like it never happened, until God sends a man named Nathan.
Nathan doesn't come in with accusations. He doesn't arrive with evidence or a legal case. He tells a story. Two men in a city, one rich, one poor. The rich man had vast herds, more than he could count. The poor man had nothing except one small lamb. He raised it like a daughter, fed it from his own table. And when a traveler came to the rich man's house, instead of taking from his own flock, he took the poor man's lamb and slaughtered it. David's fury breaks open. He declares the man deserves to die. And Nathan looks at him calmly, says 4 words: "You are the man." Everything collapses, not in some dramatic moment, in a quiet recognition. David sees himself not as the hero of the story, as the villain. The cover is gone. The silence is over, and now he has to face the one thing he's been running from: himself. David couldn't take it anymore. Not the silence, not the weight, not the truth staring back at him. So he writes, not for people, not to protect his image, to tell the truth. And the very first line tells you everything. Have mercy on me, O God. Not, I deserve another chance. Not, look at everything else I've done right. Just mercy, because you are merciful. He starts with God's character, not his own. And that is where real repentance begins. Not in how bad you feel, not in how sorry you sound, in who God is. Then he goes deeper. Blot out my transgressions. Not my mistake, not my situation, not my circumstance, my transgressions. He calls it what it is, because real repentance doesn't rename the crime, doesn't soften the language, doesn't say, I made a poor decision under difficult circumstances. It says, I did this, it was wrong. And then the line most people skip. I acknowledge my transgressions, and my sin is ever before me. I see it fully. No defense, no context, no justification to soften it. I see it, and I can't stop seeing it. That's not self-punishment. That's honesty, and it's one of the hardest things a human being can do. But here's where David says something that sounds wrong at first, and if you miss this part, you miss the whole psalm. Against thee only, have I sinned. And your first instinct is, wait, what about Bathsheba? What about Uriah? What about every soldier who followed a corrupt order? How is this only about God? Because David now understands something most people take a lifetime to learn. Every sin is ultimately an act against God, not just against the person you hurt, against the one who made that person, against the one who made you, against the moral fabric of the world itself. He didn't just break a law, he broke a relationship. And you cannot fix a broken relationship with better behavior. You have to go to the person. Then it gets deeper. Behold, I was shaped in iniquity. David isn't making excuses, he's making a diagnosis. The problem isn't just what I did. The problem is what's inside me that made me capable of doing it.
His name is Steve, 27 years old. He's not a king, but he made a decision he can't take back. Maybe it was a relationship he destroyed, a trust he broke, a secret that's been sitting in his chest for months, getting heavier every single morning. And Steve has tried everything to make it stop. Staying busy, staying numb, staying away from anyone who might actually ask. And it doesn't work, because that's not how this works. The weight doesn't lift when you ignore it. It just gets heavier. What David teaches Steve, what this psalm teaches anyone willing to sit in it, is that the moment you stop running is not the moment you lose. It's the moment things actually start to shift. Not because confessing makes the consequences disappear. They don't. David still lost his child, still lived with what he did, still felt the fallout for years. But something shifted inside him. He stopped hiding, he stopped pretending, he stopped fighting the truth. And that is where change actually begins, not in the circumstances, in the person.
David didn't get a reset. He didn't get to go back, didn't get to unmake what he made. But he got something better. The last thing he writes in this psalm says it all. The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart. O God, thou wilt not despise. Not performance, not ritual, not the right words at the right volume, just truth, a heart that has finally stopped pretending. And God's response to that is not rejection, it's presence. David asked to not be cast away from God's presence, and the answer was, you're not. You're still here. I'm still here. Now let's rebuild. Here's the truth about failure. Every single person watching this has something they regret, something they wish they could take back, a moment where they knew better and still chose wrong. But this story doesn't end with David's failure. It ends with what he did after it. He faced it, he named it, he brought it to God, and he let it change him. Not just his behavior, him. David didn't get a reset, he got a new heart, and that is not a small thing. So the question isn't whether you've failed. The question is, what are you doing with it right now? If this hit different, you're in the right place. Subscribe, because we're just getting started.